Look who's here, the new chair of House Ways and Means, Congressman Jason Smith. Congressman, congratulations on your chairmanship. First, your reaction to a second batch of documents found at a separate location that President Biden has misclassified even more top secret documents, multiple locations now being searched. What do you make of this growing scandal?
Liz, thanks for having me. It's absurd. If you look back just a few months ago when President Biden was blasting President Trump for having classified documents and how careless he said that is, well, this was the vice president of the United States that was that careless with documents, and they have found now 2 rounds of documents. It's absolutely unacceptable. He needs to be treated the same way that he tried to treat the former president.
Well, he was holding on to them 6 years after he left the Obama White House. His think tank started up 2 years after he left the White House, so he was holding on to them. All right, we're going to move on to this. Let's get your reaction to MSNBC's Joy Reid and her fight with Representative Byron Donalds. Watch this.
My friend Jody Arrington, who's going to chair budget, he wants to look into the budget and also look into entitlements. Do you know that Social Security is going to be insolvent in 2035?
It is not going to be. That is not true. That is actually not true. No, it's actually not true.
Now, Joy,
it's actually not true. It's actually not true. But it's actually not true.
In the financial community,
that's actually not true.
That's actually not true. Will go insolvent.
That's actually not true.
Those are the facts.
Okay, even Social Security, the CBO, the Congressional Research Service, Congressman, all say Social Security is headed for insolvency by 2035. Just 80% of benefits will be payable. Insolvency means our taxes will go up to pay for it, to make it solvent.
Just because someone says it's not true doesn't mean it's not true. We clearly have to worry about Social Security and Medicare. Without a doubt, even the Congressional Budget Office will say that these are programs that will become solvent if we're not careful. So I don't know what she's been reading or what she's looking at, but I will say this right now. The Republican Party is the party of the working class. We're going to do everything we can to protect and preserve Social Security and Medicare. We just hope the Democrats will join with us in making sure we're protecting these programs.
Well, Democrats, their new narrative is they're saying the Republicans want to defund Social Security, defund Medicare, defund the Pentagon, Defense Department. What do you say to that?
They love to say that Republicans want to throw Granny off the cliff. They've been doing that for decades. It is all lies. Republicans want to protect Social Security and Medicare. We are the party of the working class. That is who depends on Social Security and Medicare, and that's in fact what we'll be doing. I welcome my Democrat colleagues to join with us. The only way that we're going to be able to fix these problems is if they come in a bipartisan manner and we fix it, and we're going to have to do it. But spin is only making these programs even worse.
But, the Democrats' attitude is that there's an open pocketbook out there among the American people to pay for everything, and that they're entitled just to keep taxing and spending the way they want for their personal wish list items.
Liz, when I was the ranking member of the Budget Committee, we had a hearing where the Democrats tried to eliminate the debt limit because they're like, we don't need a debt limit. And in that hearing, we had leaders of the Democrat Party say, what? We can just print more money. We don't ever have to pay anything back. We'll never pay anything back. That's crazy. It's ludicrous. It's unacceptable. That's why the American people decided to kick the Democrats out of the House of Representatives and the Republicans to get the majority, is because they want the fiscal house to be in order, and that's in fact what we are pushing towards.
Congressman Joy Reid also asked Congressman Donalds if his GOP colleagues nominated him for House Speaker last week as a, quote, diversity statement. Watch this.
You were nominated for Speaker.
Yeah.
You've been in Congress 1 term.
Yes.
What were your qualifications to be Speaker of the House?
Well, look, I think my colleagues, they recognize my leadership, and they've seen it in many leaps and bounds.
There are 4 African-American members in the House caucus, the Republican caucus. There are 56 members in the Democratic caucus. So it's more diverse. So do you not believe that the idea was to make a diversity statement by nominating you?
Well, actually, first, that was not the idea, because I was in the room when the decision was made by people who chose to nominate me.
Your reaction, so a diversity statement, so insult his intelligence because he has different opinions than hers? Congressman Donalds worked in the finance, insurance, and banking industries. He was raised by a single mom. What was your take on that he's a diversity statement?
I'll tell you, these people are absolutely ridiculous, and they should be ashamed of themselves. The fact that they want to target conservatives, they target conservative women, they target conservative African Americans, Asian Americans, they need to back off just because they're not like everyone else and that they believe in freedom, opportunity, and hope.
You know, in the past, Democrats like Al Gore, Obama, JFK, and Bill Clinton, they demanded cuts to big government spending. That was a Democrat platform dating back to JFK. But now, are they all radical?
I'll tell you, the Republican Party is the party about diversity. We're the party that is growing. We want everyone in our party because we are delivering for working class Americans. The Democrats are the party of woke corporations, Wall Street and K Street. We are about working class Americans.
So Democrats are hitting out at attempts to curb excessive government spending. That's exactly what you saw them trying to do with reinvent government, you know, under Al Gore and Bill Clinton.
They just continue to spend. That's their philosophy. We saw more than $10 trillion of spending just in the last 24 months, in the first 24 months of one-party Democrat rule. Thank goodness we've stopped that since January 3rd.
Got it. Congressman Smith, we'll have you back on soon. It's good to see you.